Welcome everyone to the first edition of TestMu and as well as our first panel discussion. I'm Mayank Bhola and I'm one of the co-founders and head of products at LambdaTest, and I'll be moderating the panel discussion today. And before we start the session, I would like to thank all our partners for supporting us and being part of this event. And I think there couldn't have been a better topic for today's discussion because with me are joining heavy experienced personalities from the world of testing. And that is why I think it's a good place to think about and contemplate about the future of testing. And I would like to ask my guests today to give a round of introductions about themselves, and then we can start with the event. I think, Priyanka, let's go with you first.
Sure. Hi, Mayank, and hi, everyone. Hi, Vikul and Larry. It's great to be here and talking about future of testing. I'm Priyanka. I'm the director of quality engineering currently at Oscar Health, and I have my own consulting firm as well called the Lean Starter, where I advise to companies. Um, about my experience, I have almost 16 years experience doing quality engineering. Last 10 years, I'm building quality engineering team from ground up. I come and join in a company. I set up their quality engineering process. I assess them, and I make sure we adopt all the practices that helps the bigger organization. Finding bug is my passion, so you will see a lot of them on my Twitter handle, PreTechMom, and I'm super happy to be here. Vikul?
Thanks a lot, Priyanka.
Hey,
Vikul,
Priyanka,
can
thank
we
you.
go with you next?
Yeah, can you guys hear me fine?
Yeah, can you get?
Yep.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Mayank. So like Priyanka, I'm pretty excited about this panel discussion, future of testing. Very closely aligns with the work I'm doing in my current company, Qualitest, where I'm an EVP, where I head the next-gen quality engineering practices. So when I say next-gen, we're talking about containers, we're talking about DevOps, we're talking about cloud, we're talking about performance engineering, accessibility, we're talking about data engineering, right? How it impacts the world of testing. And prior to joining Qualitest, I had CTO roles in large organizations like HP Software, Cognizant. Now, I've got 22 plus years of experience. Uh, I would say it's equally divided between hardcore engineering work, where I've been a developer, an FCAPS implementer, an ORBA developer, and I've done extensive work on the quality engineering side, primarily building capabilities which will help customers shift left. So that's the long and short introduction about me. I'll hand it over to Larry.
Thanks.
Hi guys again. Thanks for being here. About me, and to make it keep it short, I'm the test automation architect for Oxford University Press, and I'm also the creator of 𝒂𝒂𝒌𝒂. It's a test automation framework for doing all the nice, weird, and wonderful things in the world of testing: E2E, API, visual, and the lot. For me, it's it's good to be here. I like the topic. I like the topic because it's one of them. We are one of them stages where a lot going on in this space. So it will be it's really cool, and it's a nice opportunity to knock heads with Gupta and how to have a say about it. So yeah, that's about me there.
Thank you so much, Larry. And with that, I do believe that we are carrying so much context about how the testing industry has gone through the evolution. And before we can talk about what the future would look like, I think it's good that we throw some light on your journey and your experience. How have you seen this industry getting transformed? Because that's much more important to learn the context. How has been this industry going forward, and what we can expect to see? Maybe we can start with you. Let's. Would love to hear from you. How do you think that industry has transformed in these decades about the
I think
testing?
if there is one industry which has transformed significantly in the last 5 to 7 years, that I would say the quality engineering aspect of the SDLC cycle is the most transformed. And the reason is, I remember 6-7 years back, there was this whole discussion about we don't need QA. SDETs can do the job, right? And everyone was saying QA is done. I just saw someone commenting, till the time there is development, there will be testing. Now, I was a developer, believe me, right? Now, they say the reason this is because world is moving towards DevOps, world is moving towards Agile. As part of HP Software, Cognizant, Qualitest, believe me, I've interacted with a lot of senior customers, stakeholders. Not one has said we want to get rid of quality engineering. What they're saying is we want to transform how quality is done. Now that's where I think Priyanka was talking about shift left or the whole aspect. So it's not that QA is going to disappear. How QA is done, instead of assuring quality, quality has to be engineered. Our world was all about manual to automation. And honestly, that started 10 years back. If you go and talk about automation, you are already antiquated in front of a customer. It's not about how much to automate, it's what to automate, when to automate, if to automate. There's concepts like hyper automation coming in. There's concept like there are CIO initiatives called shift left. And the whole idea there is, right, if you dissect shift left, they want to shift left so that defects are found late, are found early in the cycle, not later. Shift left is all about reducing the rework. Priyanka said it's all about her passion is finding defects. Honestly, my passion is avoiding defects. That's why quality engineering is important. So imagine where requirements are coming in. QA doesn't go and validate the requirement, but now we do. We go check the requirements, the user story, whether it is ambiguous, whether it is conflicting, whether it is incomplete. Because if you don't, 33% of defects found in QA cycles are attributed to wrong requirements, incomplete requirements, or ambiguous requirements. That's one simple example I use to explain to our customers what does it mean by engineering quality. Because now you're engineering quality rather than just assuring quality. There are other aspects, but that's a fundamental shift. The other thing which I'm seeing is you've heard the word DevOps. If you look up Diego from Forrester, he starts talking about DevTestOps, because testing or quality engineering is an important citizen in the DevOps journey. It has to be integrated. It has to be a first-class citizen as part of your pipeline. So those are some of the fundamental shifts, Priyank. I'll let others weigh in. And if there's any more follow-up questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those.
Great, Vikul. Definitely, I do believe that more than thinking about just to randomly automate, it's much more important to have a strategy that tells you whether should you automate or not. And that is the crux of like all those hours and as well as funds getting wasted into doing something that actually doesn't get into the fruitful results.
Man, you won't believe how many times I've been called in to say, we have 8,000 test cases. Can you come and automate? I'm like, wait, why are you requesting me to automate 8,000 test cases? Do you need 8,000?
Absolutely.
Right? So bringing in something like model-based testing where you have requirements and mapping it directly to test cases, finding out redundant test cases, duplicate test cases, this is part of your shift left. This is part of your quality engineering practices.
Absolutely. Larry, what do you think about this?
I mean, yeah, to me, as I was just the way I was going to say that. I think that was the whole concept. The whole concept is far too long. Everybody have been looking at, they say testing, and then at the end of it, then they're asking you to, to go and automate a couple thousand test cases that should have been started from since the beginning. But in the reality is like the general term now is DevOps, because so somewhere along the line between DevTestOps and it becomes DevOps, the drop-off test somewhere along the line. Can't remember exactly how long ago, and then they started talking Agile. So it's like, okay, we're doing Agile, so we have no time to actually test this, but what we will do, we will do Agile, and then we'll do a waterfall testing. But then you can't do Agile if you're looking at the waterfall principle kind of thing. So it's all about putting it together in its context where, okay, this is something we're doing. This is where we have to test, and testing should be and I won't even use the word integral. Testing should be the general mainstay of what it is, because it becomes like an afterthought. It becomes like an afterthought. So in the whole thing about where it has been, so that's one of the biggest steps I've seen. And to make a long story short, the biggest step I've seen is that no step has been taken at all, because from then till now we still have the problem where here we are, we build in this application or whatever it is. So you have an application, we build in this application, and testing becomes oh, by the way, did we have testing? So no testing wasn't even engaged from the inception coming up the road. It only becomes a thing because, oh, we need to go live next month. Let's test this to see if it works. And then when we don't do that, we'll just throw that away until some customer call up and say, oh, it doesn't work on Chrome 2600. Then you realize, oh my gosh. So that's one of the big things that it has. So for me personally, they might say it's been a shift. They've been saying nobody else, but nothing really haven't changed in reality. We still having we'll build an app, and somewhere along the line we'll test it before we go live. So and I'm with Vikul on this one. Vikul on this one. It's something that I try to figure out why now you want to automate 1,000 test cases when we should have been automating before you started writing in the first place.
Absolutely. Priyanka, what are your thoughts the same?
Sure. I would like to add a different perspective here. In my experience, I think back in 2006 when I started my career, I started with Accenture, and we were in a very waterfallish world, right? Like there was a separate testing team, and the requirements were getting done on their particular time, and like there was a whole time where we will do testing after the development is done, and the team were very separated on their own bubble, doing their own thing, finding the bugs. I still remember we used to have like evening meetings with our US team to talk about all the bugs and stuff. But as we progressed through the years and a lot of sophisticated automation came up, we came out of the HP tooling, and now Selenium gained more favorable terms, right? That time I feel like quality engineering shifted, right? So we no longer like to have a separate team for some reason, right? Like we are adopting agile, so everybody actually concentrate on a particular pod or a particular topic or a particular engineering team, right? So everybody inside a team, so more communication. And today I feel like when I establish quality engineering team, I'm establishing a coaching kind of a thing where I'm coaching everybody from product to developers to data scientists, that what quality means to each of them and how we can together bring the quality engineering practices to a maturity where it's gonna help us in a long run, right? So we are not doing it in any isolated manner, right? And we are more integrated. So that's one evaluation I have evaluation I have seen. The other one I have seen is in terms of automation practices. When Vikul told about the 8,000 tests, right? I always preach like, first figure out what your user journey looks like. You must have analytics, right? Figure out which browser your users are user are using, what top 10 functionality your user are using. And if you can assure that with automation, with cloud technologies, you have already owned the game. You do not need to test everything. You do not have to find 100% bug before going live. You have to do the quality engineering very strategically so that you get maximum ROI. So these are the two things that I think in my experience I saw quality engineering evolving. Like whereas back in 2006 we will unturn the earth and find every possible bugs and go through go no go, but today we are more strategic, and we think around customers, and think around where we should put our effort to get maximum ROI.
Absolutely. And like what I feel is that it's more of a process and an ideological change about the testing. Definitely tools have matured, the practices have matured, but it's actually the understanding of what quality means to the end user. It doesn't have to be like a very robotic process where there's only two answers, right and wrong. It's more about embracing the fact that what matters to the user and what can bring out the maximum maximum benefit in the least amount of time and the resources. But then on those same lines, do you guys also think that the tooling as well as whatever the practices available in the testing world are lagging behind in terms of the pace at which the software development, the core development is moving ahead at the pace, given the fact that the core engine and the work that we do is same, but you guys still feel that there's some kind of a parity at the stage?
I mean, I would jump in on that if I may to start. I think when coming to tooling, we have a lot of tools out here to our disposal, and like anything else, tools come and go, and it's all about getting the right balance in which tool to use for your particular situation. Because when I think about it, back in the and I'm just going back slightly, we now have two new contenders on the market, Cypress and Playwright. That's the buzzword. Most people you talk to, most groups saying it's all about Cypress and Playwright and something's going on. But then if you go back just 5 years ago, it was all about Nightwatch and Protractor. It's all about Nightwatch and Protractor and stuff like that. And those are just two off the top of my head. But the point is we have all these tools coming along, and they get a lot of traction based on who using it and in what context is being used. But it doesn't have much, I would say, continuity in the product. So after a while, it fizzles out. Because let's, for argument's sake, say IBM decided to use Protractor. Then all of a sudden, that's what everybody using because IBM's a massive company. They're quite up here, so let's follow them. But the minute they finish with the 15 projects that are using it and they scrap it, then you don't hear about it anymore. So that's one of the things we're coming at tooling. I think despite the fact that we have a lot of tooling that is take place, we need to pay attention to what is good for our particular needs or our company and things like that. So I just try to tell people who I advise in that sense that, look, you choose the tool that is best for the job at that moment, but always get something that you don't have to redesign the whole wheel later on down the road. You must be using something that you can say, okay, this doesn't work anymore, or this have been deprecated. Let me just put something else in its place that could do the same job but new. And and that was one of the things that when I was building Classy.js, that's one of the things that I did. I made it in such a way that as things go along, you could remove bits out and put in a new technology that comes along that does the same thing, but because the other one was there, all you don't do is change the name of the actual function that was using it. So that way it's invisible to the outside world. And yeah, so in terms of tooling, I think it's good. The tools comes along, they're very cool on the market, but we need to have toolings where it's have a long continuation long after the initial companies and people that use it uses it. Like for instance, take WebDriver.io. I kind of like that one. Why? I think that will have an even longer future than some of the ones that come past, even Cypress and Playwright. Why? Because look what it did with WebDriver.io like a couple of years back. It joined the JS project. So now that's a long, continuous, ongoing, development cycle with more people coming in and stuff like that. So yeah, that's just my take on it, at this point with the whole tooling aspect.
So Mayank, if I can weigh in. So I do feel toolings have come a long way. I can speak from experience because I used to work for one of the largest testing tool provider. Now, what has changed? Previously, product companies will build elephants. They would want to do everything. And the market is not looking to buy elephants. They are looking for niche solutions to solve particular problems. So the ability to mix and match, I think Larry alluded to that, right? It's not about just third-party tools, paid tools, commercial tools, but even open source has evolved a lot. Irrespective of whether it's open source or third-party, there are three aspects which are key. Tools realize that integration is key. Because previously it wasn't. We used to make tons of money, charging amazing money to just integrate using Tasktop or Coware or other things, right, with other tools. Now, most of the tools have integration out of the box. APIs, REST APIs are out of the box. Second, previously it was all about test management, automation as the key. Now, intelligence is part of it. Whether you look at LambdaTest, whether you look at TwiceMTest, whether you look at XMQ, they all provide insights. So intelligence is the other part. Third is inclusive. So integrated, intelligent, inclusive. Inclusive is, I think, going back to Priyanka's point, it's not a separate COE or TCOE. It's now part of pods. So the tools need to provide a way to collaborate with the rest of the pod. There needs to be a traceability between user stories and defects and test cases and code. All of that aspect is there. And most of the tools also integrate with common collaboration platforms and so on. So that's a change. On the intelligence part, I see testing benefiting a lot from AI. There are tools like Mabel. There are insight tools built into individual, like test optimization. The tools themselves provide insights, whether it is risk-based, whether it is impact-based, whether it is intent-based. Tools provide that out of the box. So the world has evolved. So has the needs been. A few areas where it hasn't evolved are especially in the TDM space or service virtualization space and so on. But the core quality engineering aspects, I do see the tools evolving a lot.
And actually, that point is very interesting about AI and ML proliferating almost in every field of computer science and engineering, and testing will never be spared from that. But then on the actual realization of AI and ML into testing, do you feel that it has actually reduced the effort to ensure the quality in any sense? It could be reduction of testing time. It could be focusing on more important issues or quality metrics. Do you actually feel that the ML and AI is providing that kind of value, which is making up to the hype?
It depends on what use cases you pick.
Absolutely.
I have been highly successful in using AI for test optimization. If I were to ask everyone, how do you optimize test? They say risk-based testing. Who decides the risk? SME decides the risk. SME leaves, you're back to number one. Even with risk-based optimization, you'll get 15, 20, 30% optimization. That was awesome when we were doing 6 months releases, 4 months releases, 2 months releases. Now we're talking about daily releases, weekly releases, every 2 week releases. 30% doesn't cut it. I'm in situations where the head of QA has come to me and said, Vikul, we only have 2 weeks release cycle, and I need 4 days, and I don't get 4 days. I have only 2 days. I can't run 800 test cases. How do I survive? That's where AI would come in, right? Now, AI, I think all of you understand the concept of AI. What is important is data. If data is crap, AI will give you crap. If you look at the NLP aspect of AI, like things like Mabel, where you give it a website and it'll scroll to the website and automatically generate manual test cases, automatically self-heal, identify object changes. Those are fairly good use cases, but only for a niche area of testing. Now, there are other areas where, like say in data assurance and others, where it's not that mature yet. But again, you can have the best algorithm, the best model. It'll give 80% optimization for customer A. It'll give 20% optimization for customer B because of the data variance. So that is the way I see it in the market. Unless Priyanka or Larry have a different view.
Yeah, I think I will add top of what Vikul said. Absolutely right. Like you have to find the niche use case where you will be applying it. And a very big example comes to my mind is one of my organization which was very content heavy. We we saw too much ROI on visual validation, right? So it made total sense visually taking snapshots and through AI making sure is it right or wrong in various viewports, right? Whereas doing it through Selenium or Playwright or Cypress would have been like taking like making sure each and element is visible, and at the same time you still can't say that yes it is visible correctly, right? So those kind of system, and again going back to the Mabel example that Vikul gave, like today there are tools like Test IM and Mabel like which are giving lot of leverage to the people who are really good at testing. Like their niche skill is finding various use cases which we don't see on a like normal programmer, right? But at the same time they're empowering these people to utilize this low code system and add automation and making them more efficient. So I would still go by and say like it's very rare that you will find a great exploratory tester plus an SDate together, right? They're
Right.
either very good tester or they're either very good programmer, and that's my experiences, right?
Yeah.
But today we have this option of Mabel and TestIM and Curiosity software where you can utilize AI-enabled tools, which is empowering these great testers on the automation space as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Mayank, I'll
want to
give you a.
throw, I mean, not cutting it. I just want to throw my little hat in the ring when coming to AI in a bit. Now, AI is good, and like Gupta said, is all about the context. But you still have one of the fundamental things about AI that I think that a lot of people don't really look at is, and I think Gupta mentioned it, is the data set. So here we have a tool, AI tool. You bring it into my organization, we drop it in there. It is going to take some time to gather all this data in order to be of any use to reduce ROIs, right? And so you have it's a kind of a toss up. Do I spend 6 months with this AI tool in this product that is going to change in 6 months down the road anyway, to put some AI in there because it's going to take at least 6 months to get some kind of relevant data set to really give you some real to say, yeah, that is a good quality result that come out of there. And so the buzzword of AI in this and AI in that is to exactly what it is. It's a big buzzword, but the reality of it is it's a big buzzword, but the reality of it is if you really want to implement APIs, AIs to reduce down on your ROIs and things, it's a much bigger picture that people don't really talk about. They just talk about, oh yeah, we can implement some AI and some machine learning in there, and it will reduce your testing by X amount. But they're not telling you, oh, by the way, you need to spend at least 6 months a year gathering all this data and constant over a long period of time before you could say, this is what it is and that is what it is. And Gupta, right? In one place, it might be 80-20 for a good thing. And in the next case, it might be 20-80 on the bad side. And so that is one aspect of it. And then you have, as I just mentioned, the whole low code thing. Low code does remind me of one thing. And no offense to nobody, but it reminds me of the record playback module way back in the day. You record something, you play it back, and you make a little change. I mean, that's what it reminds me of. I ain't saying that's what it is, but that's what it reminds me of a lot. And to me personally, I think a low code is not, I would put it like this. Low code is for somebody like myself and Gupta and Halda who in this business for long, and we can just jump in and do that. But if you now coming in to this space as a QA tester stroke thing, I don't think low code is the way to go for you at all. I think you should avoid that like the plague, because it doesn't really teach you anything in the context of being, let me just say, I'll use Halda's proper word. She's a good bug finder. I don't think it will teach you that, that energy, and that it won't give you that if you're running low code as a new person in this field at all. It's for us. We have it, we jump on it, and we code up something quick to get something done with it and things like that. So yeah.
So Mayank, I'll make 2 points. I think the question AI, is it a buzzword? Is it valid? I think it's like asking me, is Java good? If the requirements are good, you can use Java to build anything you want. If the requirements are not good, it's like data. I'll give you the reason why I say that. 2018, I was working in the QA department for one of the largest telecom providers in the US. And they came back and said, we want to reduce the testing window, but during testing, we find a lot of defects. We don't even know whether it's an actual defect. And if it is a defect, who should it go to? Right? The amount of time it goes in circles is just immense. Can you help with that? So what we did was, we looked at the test cases, we looked at the past defects, 6 months worth of data, and every company would have that. Clean it up and build something called a triage bot. In 1 year, It saved that largest telecom provider in US $9 million, 387,000 man hours, just from that one bot. To give you an
That's
idea,
huge.
just to get you an idea. Now, I think Larry's absolutely right about low code and all, right? I have a son who's second year computer science. I will not ask him to go on to Codeless because I want him to understand the concepts. Low code is great. Low code, no code, scriptless automation, these are great tools. When you have a large automation, manual tester, someone asked me this question in the chat and I answered back. We are taking all our manual testers, giving all these capabilities to them and making their journey from manual to automation easier. They already know the concepts. Rather than spend a lot of time learning this and that, we're giving them these utilities so that they can do the job of automation and make that jump easy. So that's how we are using it, right? So there's a place for everything. I'll probably ask my son to look at codeless or scriptless after 6 years because he needs to learn, like Larry was saying, the basic concept of things.
And I think this is something which is really missing this insight, because people do treat codeless and low code platforms as a single source of truth. And why that raises a problem is because you're using incorrect tool for that correct problem, right? It's more about getting to know when to use this. And I think I couldn't agree with you on more. It's about the jump. Ultimately, everybody needs to move to the automation if they want to test at scale, right? But then manual is not the way out, and it has to be an evolutionary journey. So these tools are definitely making the life easier to jump onto the automation so that someday that automation path will be easier for them. Absolutely.
I have a very different perspective on this low code thing. I have seen some of the smartest development team using them because they don't want to navigate the complexity of standing up a framework and maintaining it, right? I'm not sure if Larry or
Microsoft uses it big time.
Yeah,
so
exactly what we're saying. You see, that's exactly what we're saying. We're not saying don't use it.
I agree to disagree that low code is only for manual tester and they are moving it to.
Oh,
No, that
no.
was
We
not the
never said
point.
that.
That was
We
not the
never
point.
said that. That was never said. The point is, low
Anyone who
code is
has
not
the
for new
concepts right,
testers in the game.
Right.
anyone who has the concepts right can use automation, any of the scriptless or codeless automation tools.
Right.
If you jump directly into that, Larry's point was you're going to miss the basic concepts, right? You're going to if there is an issue, you will not know how to resolve it because you don't understand the basic concepts. That was the point he was making.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But again, like every tool is like a choice depending on
Oh yeah.
depending on where the team is, where the maturity is, what available to them, right? And what they want to do. Like some companies, they don't want to have even start automation framework work because like that's an extra work. Nobody is there. They don't have the team in place, right? The long term solution is not the option to go, and
Yeah.
then choose the other path. So I feel like this newer models tool help them with that. And again, there is the other part of it. There should be always a long term strategy where you are utilizing the better like solid platform, right? Like Cypress, yeah, Playwright, Selenium, WebDriver, IO, whatever it
Yeah, but I
is.
mean that's true. But you see that all that is true, but then that brings us back to the whole thing of do we okay, you have a team and you don't have a dedicated, like say, tester in that team, or you don't have a dedicated test department, so you're bringing some low code stuff that the developers and them would use, and that all that is fine, no argument there. But the thing is, that is exactly what we're saying. That is good for when you have teams who know what they're doing, and and they bring it in and they just utilize it, and they utilize and they get stuff done. But again, that in no way would help them in the overall testing strategy of what is going on with what they're doing. And to make it even heavier, is like when somebody new joined that team and they're not as up to scratch, or they're not as senior as the people that they have on the existing team, then low code doesn't help them in any way. And that's what we're saying. We're not saying don't use it. We're saying somebody like myself, somebody like Gupta, who we in the game, like yourself, we in the game for years. We could jump on it and use it and get things done. But people who now coming in, 2-3 years or thing. And I like Gupta's point. I'll tell my son use it when he's 6 years in the game.
Your concept has
So,
to be clear, otherwise you will not be able to utilize this tool. So
so
yeah,
Mayank,
that part.
let's take this opportunity to answer some of the related questions to this
Questions
topic.
too.
Someone
Absolutely.
asked, with the appearance of no code tools for automation testing, do you think the position QA automation engineer will be not required? So perfect question. I've used this to position why AI is the new way of doing things. So you remember autopilot was developed back in 1980. Pilots are not out of job. So all these no code, low code, look at these as assistance tools. They're not go- they're there to make the job of an automation engineer easier. They're there to make the transformation of a manual tester to an automation engineer easier. So that's the way I see it. Your role is not going to go away.
Yeah,
True
same
that.
with the
And in fact,
experience.
why GitHub launched a tool called Copilot. They're not trying to replace a software developer. They're just going to enhance their experience so that their life is much more easier and able to focus on the right set of problems.
Correct.
You know, like I say, answering so many questions. Like I'm looking at that question here, and I find it's a good one. You know, why so much emphasis on tools? You know, what are the skills that will make a tester stand out no matter what? Now, that's a really good question, and I'll tell you why. Because the whole point about being a tester or automator, whatever you want to call it, the whole point about it is that brings us back to our whole conversation just now. It's about what you bring to the table. You know, how are you going to interact with this product? How are you going to help me as a developer sort this product out? How you're going to find stuff? You're going to look at it. You're going to do it. And if you from a point of view of tools, let's take tools out of it. You need the basics. You know, you come and you look at the product from a user point of view, and you will then realize that and because the thing with products is with a user, I as the developer build it and say, yeah, they will click that button on the right hand side to go next. But you as a user will come up, bring it up and see two buttons and just click the one on the left completely to do, and that is what makes a good tester stand out. Somebody who could look at the product at hand and look at what I like to call the edge cases. What if I press that? What will happen? You know, what if I click there? What will that do? And once you as a tester get that kind of mentality on, then you start to go down the road of this is what it's really about. And then everything else just get adds on to that as we go along. Gupta?
Yeah, agreed. I think there's a related question. What is an advice you will give to a tester? My advice will be, first of all, start feeling proud of what you do. That is number one. Second, you're not just a tester. You fix problems which developers don't even realize they're creating. That is number two. Number three, stop calling yourself tester. You're a quality engineer. That's the new positioning. And the third I would say is, I think, related to what I think Larry and Mayank were talking about, tools. Now, listen, you can be a musician, and that's a quality you have. But whether you play banjo or whether you play guitar or whether you play jazz or you play something else is going to be critical for you to be part of a band. So knowing the tool. So if you ask me, we hire a lot of people, but those are hired against customer projects. And each customer would have a certain framework or certain tools. So keeping up to date on tools is a way for you to market yourself. But for me, if you ask me, knowing one tool, whether you know HPLM or whether you know Tricentis, they're all the same things. It's just learning 5 screens this, 5 screens something else. Understand the concepts. Make sure you are up to date on feature capabilities on next-gen tools. Till the time you're up to date, whether you know this tool or that tool doesn't matter much.
Yeah, and that's what we say. And I kind of tell that to people. You learn one little stuff, and after that, it's about add-on. You know, it's about adding on things, and the whole thing about and I think somebody asked a question about usefulness, a QA trying to prove the usefulness inside in a team. You see, that is how the business make it look, but that is not what it's supposed to be. Because what it's supposed to be is that you're going to build a product, and you suppose just how you'll go there and look for the best developers, you're supposed to go out and look for the best testers too, because you want when Gupta built it, myself and Halda, we must be able to not break it. That should be the point. We should not be able to break it. That will prove that the product that Gupta put out there is solid. So it should never be, why does a QA have to prove usefulness in the team? That should never ever be a question. But yet today it still is. How do we get rid of it? By the big elephant in the room. It's the biggest elephant in the room. How do we get the people on top upper management to realize QA is not a pastime, it is actually part of the development process?
I think these days lot of emphasis on enabling the whole team as well. Like previously we used to say we want to break the code and we want to find as much bugs as possible, but I feel like we are shifting to a genre where QA is very much needed in a team to like hold the team together, right? Telling product like if they write the acceptance criteria right, the quality increases because then we are clear what developer are developing and what needs to be tested. Like same way. So lot of emphasis on enabling the whole team rather than you doing the only like if you are single-handedly thinking about quality, right? So
Yeah.
that's change as well.
Yeah. Mayank, there are two questions which are interrelated. I think someone is asking, is there a difference between QA and QE? And then what is essential for testers to have DevOps skills in the future? These are very interrelated. If you are okay, can the three of us try to answer that? Because I think that is
Absolutely.
relevant. Yeah.
Definitely.
So quality assurance, the world is about writing test cases, designing test cases, writing test cases, executing test cases, finding defects. Quality engineering is about not assuring quality but engineering quality. I think I talked about this before. Now, what does that mean? It's good from a verbiage perspective, but what does it mean? It means that you need to understand programming language, you need to understand design concepts, you need to understand the world of the overall SDLC process so that you understand what's a good requirement, what's a good design pattern, right? You understand how to read the output of a code quality tool, understand what code complexity means. You understand those aspects so that you can help identify quality issues much earlier in the life cycle without writing a single test case or executing a single test case. That's at a high level, right? I'm just trying to give a simplified view of quality engineering versus QA. It's not about executing test cases and only finding defects. Of course, our world is going to find defects, but it's about preventing defects. It's preventing rework. Now, what will be essential for testers to? Will it be essential? Absolutely. Absolutely, it will be essential because if your customer is not on DevOps, they will be on DevOps. Why? Because everyone is trying to go digital, whether it is healthcare, whether it is life sciences, whether it is banking, insurance, retail, you name it, information media, every vertical, every domain is going digital. If they're going digital, what is important? What is important is iterative feature releases, the concept of MVP, shorter sprint cycles. If that is the case, you need to, of course, know how to do quality engineering, but you also need to understand the integrated aspect. You need to understand what does continuous testing mean. How it's one thing to write automation, but if you don't understand how will this automation be automatically invoked, if so, how does if the test results, if something fails, what insights you derive out of it, and how do you, let's say, that root cause analysis, triage bot I talked about, how to use that, go feedback, improve, and then you're not adding to the increasing the velocity of that release. So DevOps, from that perspective, from a continuous testing perspective, is going to be really, really essential. Not immediately in some cases, but in most of the cases in the next 2-3 years, it is going to be a default. From a Qualitest perspective, DevOps, automation, intelligence, these are three keywords which are core to our DNA. We are expecting all our quality engineers to know all these concepts.
Absolutely. And I think we are very well on the time. And at this stage, would like to quickly have your views on, finally, if you have to predict the future of testing, what will be in like a single sentence, starting with Priyanka.
I think future of testing is bright. We have a lot of new concepts and new tools, and I think I will encourage everybody to choose what is best for their particular use case. and adopt and educate the community.
Great. Vikul, how are you using?
I would say, I would say it is very exciting. I'll tell you why. Because if you look at development, a lot of changes happen. This ID, this development language, that. If you look at operations, right? Operations analytics, a lot of things happened, right? But if you look at QA, last 4-5 years, transformation has happened. We started thinking about what next, the next gen aspect. So I'm very excited about what more can come, how we can improve the quality of our digital applications, and what role we will play.
Awesome.
And
Larry, it's your turn.
From me, I think it is, like everybody has said so far, it is bright. It's really bright because we have a lot of stuff coming out on the market, and we have a lot of new people coming in as well. And one of the things I want to see is that it's people like myself and Gupta and Halda, that we pass on the bit of knowledge that we already have to all the little ones, all the new ones coming in. And yeah, but in that sense, because of all this new tech coming on, we have to embrace it. That's something that people cannot not look at. We need to embrace it. As QAs, we need to embrace all the new things. It's not like we're saying, okay, go out and just have 5 new things on the market, learn them all. There's one little, it might sound strange, but once you have an underlying understanding and usage of any automation tool, no matter what the world could throw at you, you will be able to adapt it within 10 seconds of seeing it. Because it's just people putting different spins literally on the same thing. You're making it easier, making it faster. Like we say, you're bringing a little AI, so it makes things a little quicker. You have visual testing. And that's the next thing. Now you grab an image and in 3 seconds, it on every single viewport that you could think of. Long time, I used to literally have to go one, yeah, check it, going next one, check that, going next one, and now it's done in seconds. So it's all about embracing the technologies out there, embracing the new technologies that come in, and keeping your head in the game. You don't have to learn everything. You just have to know that it's there, be aware of it, and in your downtime, do some POCs using it and see if it is good for your job. If it's not, then you just let it go. If it is, then you embrace it and you bring it in. But yeah,
I'll give
you on it.
I'll give you another example, right? Like, so my son is in second year of college. He's majoring in AI, ML. And he hears me, he was home for summer vacation. He hears me talk about what we are trying to do in Qualitest and AI. And he came to me saying, can I do an internship in Qualitest because I'm excited about the work you guys are doing. So it is exciting even for the next generation. It's not, the world is not about writing test cases. It's much more than that.
And one other point before we run away is people need to understand too that not because we're into this big automation world, there will, and I say it without that equivalent doubt, there will always be use for manual testers. Always. It's like the point somebody made earlier. It's like Gupta made it. When they're bringing autopilot, that doesn't mean say there's going to fire all the pilots. It just gives the pilots a little downtime whilst they're flying on very long flights. And that's what it is. But so people, and I know somewhere along the line that question was asked, all this automation and tools, what becomes of manual testers? Absolutely nothing. Because there are things that will be designed and built in the years to come and in the coming years that you have to manually test. It's just as a good thing to jump in the automation space as well.
That was icing on the cake. Thank you so much, guys, for your time as well as your insightful views on the very exciting topic of today's age. And for the audience, you can continue asking the questions, and our speakers might be available on the speakers lounge, and they'll try to answer as many questions as they could. And thank you so much again for your time today, all. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.